Good evening, everyone. Rocket Lab just unveiled a new tech worth watching. It's simpler than you think, but it's very vitally needed. NASA seems to be asking a lot of private space stations, according to their new RFP. Elon Musk claims he will be sending thousands to the moon and Mars in the next 10 years, just 10. Pulse Space gets a $40 million contract with the Space Force for a space laser power system. The FCC just gave Reflect Orbital permission to launch the first space mirror to orbit, and thousands could follow afterward. Not everybody's happy about that. And so, how do we staff the first permanent moon base? What's the optimum number? We're going to look into that. The U.S. wants to build offshore launch sites. Critics say our coasts deserve better. In a stunning reversal, Relativity Space hires NASA to build and operate a Mars science payload. And the two from Voyager closed an upsized $250 million credit facility, and they're awarded a multi-million-dollar contract for an agentic AI platform. All that, and our guest, Kristin Savage. From the news desk at the Center for Space Commerce and Finance, my name is Thomas Andrew Olson, and this is The Unknown Quantity. And of course, this show is brought to you by the Center for Space Commerce and Finance. You know what we do. We champion and strengthen emerging space startups and space-adjacent enterprises worldwide through advisory, access, and advocacy. Our legendary pitch events and world-class boot camps fortify startups to be better investor-ready. You know that part. What you don't know is that it's that time of year. It's summer, and things get a little slow, and sometimes we have a little trouble making our numbers. And I want to ask you guys a favor tonight. I want you to really reach out and dig deep if you can and help us out. And you go to cscf.space/support and hit that big donate button. And $10, $25, $100 would be great, just to keep our numbers up for July and August period, because things always slow down during that time. And I just want to tell you something. You know, this show is named The Unknown Quantity, right? And there's so much we could have done with that name. For example, this could have been a show about crypto. It would probably do really, really well. This could have been a show about the unexplained. Those shows rake it in. We could have done something like that, and we'd have thousands of followers right now and be raking it all in, right? But no, we chose to be at the crux of space and money, because we think that's very important. To building the new space economy is very important. And without stuff like this, shows like this, without information that we put out, you're not going to get enough that you need to move forward the new space economy. So dig deep, folks. Help us out. It is strongly, strongly appreciated. Now, don't forget, like, subscribe, as we always say, and tell your friends. Not only if he's coming back or not, but speaking of friends, my oldest space friend, Michael Lane, we're at his house, and Owl is now shown up and is going after the porcupine. I hope is here with me. He's from his car, so let's see if he's coming in. Here he is.
I'm going to do the best I can, man. I'm the best I can.
We have got an interesting situation tonight. Michael knew he was going to be late, and Sean was supposed to show up and do the show and fill in, but Sean is involved in a motor vehicle accident earlier this afternoon, and so he's running a little late himself. So we all have to put out the collection plate, not just for this show, but I think he also needs a new pair of underwear, according to him. I think that's what he's told me. And so it was that kind of a stressful situation for he and the fam. So wish Sean well. Hopefully he shows up later, and hopefully, Michael, you will show up later, and we'll just do the best we can the way we're doing.
I'm probably not. I'm plugged into the car. I'm just gonna sit here. I'm not gonna risk breaking the show by me going home. So I'm just gonna sit right here because I can do almost everything. Apparently, I cannot share other pages. So we're gonna have to talk about the news, but I cannot share the news. I'm going to put the link in the chat.
Would you put the link in the chat? That'll work.
Yep.
That'll work.
Yep.
And so actually, there's one thing. Let's start out. Jason asked, "Is Sean okay?" Yes, Sean is okay.
Yeah.
Everyone's okay. It's a fender bender, but the way it set itself up was pretty scary, and so he's lucky to get away with the fender bender, is what it is. And so, anyway.
Thanks for asking. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing. I've got the news items. There's one thing that's not mentioned that I just picked up a couple hours ago. Apparently, SpaceX has announced they're going to make their first attempt at Starship 13 launch on Thursday.
Great.
So we may have something extra to talk about on Thursday.
Right.
So we got that going for us. Okay, so what's going on? Okay, something you sent me, finance@yahoo.com. Rocket Lab just unveiled what they think is a game-changing thing. It's actually quite simple. It's a new take on an old piece of technology we simply call the fairing.
Yeah.
And so what they did was they're doing it for their neutron. And so fairings are always hard to work with. They're expensive to do, and you either lose them in the ocean, or you retrieve them somehow, and they come down in a couple of pieces, and you have to retrieve them, try to refurb them, and put them back on again. Well, their new take on the fairing is it's split into two parts, and it opens up like a clamshell, and it's on a hinge on the rocket.
Right. Yeah.
And so it opens up and lets the second stage go and closes up again in about 1.5 seconds. And then it comes with the recoverable, reusable booster.
Yeah, that's such a great idea. It's been around as a concept for a long time, but it's a pretty valuable piece of equipment. I think the SpaceX numbers peg it at about $6 million per launch that they just throw into the ocean. So,
and we've been throwing them into the ocean since Apollo. So let's not do that anymore.
Yeah. And I lied to you. Apparently, I cannot post to the chat with the text.
We can't even post a link. Oh my God!
Sorry.
Let me read off the whole link.
Yeah, I'll just chat it to you.
Yahoo.com. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's the Rocket Lab article dated Friday. So that's I can do.
Maybe when Sean gets back, he can figure out a way to put those things in there in post-production.
Yeah. It's you all have seen us struggle with a live show. We're so grateful to y'all that tune in and go through the effort to catch the live show, right? We've talked about appointment podcasting, the way they used to have appointment television. So sometimes this is what you get. But yep, I'm doing it from my phone as the only way that we can. This is typifies the show must go on ethos here.
This is and I'm from the news desk in Central Florida. So here we are.
Right.
Okay. Ready for the next one?
Yep. Go ahead. Ars Technica. Yep. Got it.
This is the Ars Technica. It's called NASA sure seems to be asking an awful lot of private space stations, and they just put out a draft RFP and provides a little bit of clarity what it expects from U.S. companies attempting to build privately operated space stations in low Earth orbit. Time is still running short to build, test, and fly a vehicle as complex as a space station, and they both want to avoid a gap in having a human presence in orbit. But they're putting a lot into this, especially in the RFP. They say the RFP almost reads like a cost plus contract. And you know what those look like? They have 4,800 different things they expect to get, for that one price. And so they're clear. They have some clarity now over what's being required, but there's going to have some more confusion of how are we going to do this.
That confusion is real. Like, that makes sense. NASA knows how to do things basically one way, and up until what was it? Just 6 weeks ago, probably 6 weeks ago. They were committed to doing the thing themselves. NASA was committed to doing it themselves, and so they just moved away from that core module requirement. But that doesn't mean you've changed the entire ethos of a 20,000 person organization, right?
Yeah.
So they're used to doing it the way that they do it, but now they're like, well, here's the encyclopedia of asks and requirements that we have. Good luck. And I don't know. I feel like that's kind of destined to fail. I'm a little worried about that.
That was the gist of the conversation I had with Buzz Aldrin 20 years ago. He called me at home. I asked me how we could change the culture at ULA, who's the launch contractor at the time, the shuttle contractor at the time, and change the culture so we could do more interesting things with the shuttle architecture, because he had this vision of taking a lot of smaller craft and launching a bunch of them all at once, and they'd be all private tourists. They'd all come back on their own, which is like nuts. But
cool.
I basically had to tell him, and it's true today still, the culture of any company, any contractor, any corporation is only as good as your customer. What your customer is demanding. If your customer is demanding a certain rigid set of ideals, then that's what your culture is going to turn out to be, because you're producing that particular product to order.
Yep.
So,
yep.
And that here we are again. Here we go again.
I think people have an awful lot of high expectations around Jared Isaacman, but reminding everybody he's just one guy.
Yep.
And, what was your comment the other day you said about you can turn a battleship or a super tanker, but it takes time.
Yes, it takes time and focus and patience to do a U-turn with a full super tanker. You can do it.
Yep.
But it takes a lot. It takes a lot.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Right. Jason found the article. It's called "The Hungry Hippo." Is that fairing? Right?
Did you post it, Jason? Did you post it?
Yeah, Jason. You could if you have that Hungry Hippo article, you could post that yourself. That would be great. And Jason did post something, source Rocket Lab, share Google, So yeah. Maybe our friends and neighbors here can help us. That would be great if they can find it. Next up, Elon Musk. It's on Forbes. Elon Musk claims SpaceX will send thousands of people to the moon and Mars in the next 10 years. That's kind of huge. There was this interview, I guess, where Musk said he hoped to transport up to tens of thousands of people to a base on the moon in the next 10 years, which he admitted was a pretty outrageous number, given that, there are only about a dozen or so people who have been to the moon so far. But he said his company hopes to land an astronaut on the moon in the next 2 to 3 and expand rapidly from there. That's an understatement. But he's pointing out but he wants to go up to the point. His goal is any member of the public who wants to go to the moon can go to the moon and Mars. And so he wants to build a full-blown, self-sustaining city. I don't know, 10 years. I don't know. I think it's too short. I thought it would be sooner than he originally planned, but not that soon. I'm skeptical.
So I made a bet with a former, now retired SpaceX employee. Nobody believes me, but it's baked into his contract. It's baked into his the offering document for the IPO. He gets, I think, 100 million new shares as bonuses if he can put 1 million people on Mars.
Yeah.
I think that is going to be his total personal focus, and he's going to let his lieutenants, his staff, run the other companies, and he is going to focus on Mars, not the moon. He'll go by the moon along the way. It's a stepping stone.
The capability.
But I think, and you know, our guest is going to probably have something to say about 1,000 people, 10,000 people on the moon. They probably have something to say about that. But
okay, but it's actually in the S1 filing, 1 billion. Musk gets 1 billion shares.
1 billion shares, and what was the current?
With at least 1 million inhabitants.
Right. Okay. So if you had a bonus of $150 billion, because that's what 1 billion shares are worth right now, I think you'd put some effort into it. Maybe not, but I think I would put some effort into it.
That would seem vaguely important to you.
Vaguely important.
Vaguely
right?
important.
So I don't think this is far-fetched. I think this is just Musk being Musk. His timelines are going to be laughably inaccurate, but his overall arc is probably right on track. And I did tell this former SpaceX person, I think it's going to be 3 years. I think they're going to have an actual human mission towards Mars on the next cycle.
Yeah.
So 1,000 people on the moon. I think people are not prepared for it, but it is a hell of a lot closer than they think it is.
And Dallas Beanhoff makes an interesting comment. He says, remember, Lori Garver faced a lot of opposition when she was pushing for and achieved commercial cargo. The ISS. It started with that.
Yeah. Those folks put their careers on the line. Hats off to them.
Absolutely. Okay. Where are we going next? It's 8:16. Here, actual money. Pulse Space. It's on GeekWire. Pulse Space wins a $40 million contract from Space Force to work on what they call a space laser power system. Now, this startup's only been around since 2022. They want to collect energy using solar arrays and then send that energy via a laser beam to remote nodes in space. And the technologies developed could also be used to track objects in orbit and transmit data. Yeah, laser systems, absolutely. So they're saying it's a defining moment for the company, and they're honored to partner with the Space Force to mature their technology and take that massive step forward. Because previously they got a 1.9 million Air Force contract on their work with laser-based military communication systems, and so they've had some experience doing this, and they got their seed investment round now of 5.72 million last February, and now all of a sudden they've got a $40 million contract. Good for them, and that could lead to all sorts of interesting things.
Sure. They're, in the Seattle region, I think everybody knows there's a really strong presence of military, mostly Navy, a tiny bit of Air Force, even smaller Marines, and, a decent-sized Army base, but it's mostly Navy. So I was a little surprised to see that they pulled a contract here in Seattle for that. That was pretty neat. Dallas is also referencing Starcatcher. It's a little bit of, push me, pull you, right? So Pulse is sending the signal, and Starcatcher is also kind of receiving the signal a little bit. They are also sending power as well.
Yep.
But yeah, pretty neat. Pretty neat for the local ecosystem, and then space, writ large. You and I have been talking about lasers in space for a while, right? Laser comm primarily, but power secondarily. So, yeah, pretty neat, pretty exciting.
Absolutely.
They're not really active in the local ecosystem. All the time we talk about how there's new companies we've never heard of, but this is in my backyard. Like, I figured I would have stumbled across these people before, but I don't know them. Yeah. So I'm going to make an effort. There's a couple Tech Week events in the next couple weeks. I'm going to try.
Good. Next up, this is from space.com. The FCC just gave Reflect Orbital permission to launch its first space mirror to orbit. Tens of thousands more could follow. Now, California-based startup Reflect Orbital just got a license from the FCC to launch and operate its first demo satellite that will unfurl a reflective surface that measures about 18 meters on a side. And so it's going to fly later this year. And they want to operate 50,000 or more of those in low Earth orbit by 2035, beaming reflected sunlight down to a variety of customers on the surface. We'll see. Imagine the endless possibilities when sunlight is not limited by geography or time of day. And what does that do to the day-night cycle in your body when that happens?
Oh my God. What could possibly go wrong? That's what we said the first time we saw these guys.
Yep.
And I'm going to say it every single time. What could go wrong?
Well, the people who are pissed the most at this, astronomers.
Yeah, of course they are.
They're going nuts. They're absolutely losing their shit over this. I don't blame
they
them.
should. Right, absolutely. I also am not a big fan of these nerds taking the name of the elves' favorite star, Arendelle, as the name of their satellite. That is a Lord of the Rings reference. It's yet another one. There's Anduril and Palantir and Mithril. Right. They're all like working their way into the space sector, and I'm not loving it. Not loving that. But 50,000 little pinpricks of light shining down. Maybe it's 50,000 different targets. Maybe it's 500 multiple targets. Yeah. But do you want to be the neighbor of one of those targets? Yeah.
Well, if they all collect together and aim at the one place, they could aim at North Korea, because we know what that looks like at night. Do it solid. Hey,
here we're
dark there. Let me help you out.
We're here to help. We're here to help. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Moving on. We're not going to get through this. Okay. How many astronauts should live in NASA's lunar outpost? Trying to figure out how to staff this thing. They say the worst case scenario consists of 4 astronauts on the moon at one time, only 1 month resupply window between Earth and Moon, and moderate to high adverse environmental probabilities. Oh dear. And so I guess they did this study on mission design. And they're doing a study that allows astronauts to work together well in a way independent from their psychological training. It was trying to identify specific conditions for mission success and look for the red flags. So I don't know what a computational social scientist is, but apparently she's the principal investigator. And they considered all sorts of scenarios about how many would be on the moon base and how often resupply missions would occur. in an initial case. And so, but the model astronauts in their scenario apparently showed a productivity rate of about 20% against their expected tasks.
Oh,
which is acceptable for a typical manufacturing process. So, but that productivity rate doesn't take into account anything unexpected that could crop up. So the low task completion rate.
I would think there would be a lot of unexpected in that environment.
I would think so too, especially the first rotation or two. But the low task completion rate success on average suggests that on average, teams are having challenges to overcoming psychological stressors and environmental disruptions. And so,
well, the rule here is have more than four people, right?
Yep. Yeah, they used a lot of data from ISS to try to do a reference utilization metric, and found over time, 30 years now, NASA has met or exceeded, the original goals that they had. And the original goal was 68.5 hours if there are 4 or more people per week of research, and they actually exceeded that a couple of times of 120 average hours per week.
Okay.
So that's really what it's all about. It's just a key kind of physiological and psychological study, and they're still working on it.
I'm a little surprised that folks are not using Mars Desert Research Station data more than I typically see. They've been doing it for 25 years, and yes, I know Mars isn't the moon, and yes, I know space LARPing isn't fully scientific, but there's a lot of smart stuff that happens out there in the desert in Utah, and I feel like as I read this study, they only have maybe part of the picture, and I guess that's the data source of looking at the ISS, but I don't think that feels complete to me. That's my thinking. I'm not the social scientist that's going to know these answers, but
right. Well,
it felt like the sample was a little bit skewed.
Yeah. Well, I have like 4 things left to do, but we've run out of time, so I'm going to do this last one. This is one for last. The U.S. apparently wants to build offshore rocket launch sites, and there's a bunch of critics coming out saying the coast deserves better. This is also at space.com if you want to find it. And so the government is looking into launching commercial rockets from sea-based launch sites, and they're looking at the outer continental shelf. And that area that extends in some places as much as 200 nautical miles offshore. So you might be able to build a facility like that, and you might not even see much of it until it actually launches something.
Love that.
It's out far enough, especially at night. But they're lauding the development of facilities. At least one ocean conservancy group says the plan could have disastrous effects on the ocean. And so a lot of people are unhappy.
That is so ridiculously untrue.
Yeah.
It's hard to not get sucked into the emotion of it. But
again, some of it, there is some, I hate to say it, but it's here in the article. And so it's a little bit of TDS extends into this. Because they're saying space junk and rocket explosions have already been trashing our coastal wildlife refuges, and now Trump wants to expand that destruction farther into the ocean. And so, and so it's likely another Trump excuse for allowing the oil industry to leave its rusty old junk in the ocean and avoid imposing regulations on the energy sector. This guy is saying this stuff with a straight face. And so,
right, and they believe it because we in the industry do not do a very good job of differentiating the cowboy billionaires that get all the headlines from people that are in the trenches doing the work and actually moving humanity forward. It's
Absolutely.
so ridiculous. I'm going to wave my blue flag for a second and say it's so ridiculous that the environmental community has never embraced the space community, because they've got the same mission. They
Yeah.
really do. But the billionaire boys club has kind of tainted this water, and I don't know that we'll ever win over the blues, but or
Yeah.
the Greens. I'm going to call them the environmental community, the Greens. But yeah, it's frustrating. You see an article like that, and there's just so much. It's such obvious agenda that it's hard to look past and say, okay, what's their real complaint, and how do we address it? But
Yeah.
they've already made up their minds. So
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much
Yeah.
it. Okay. Now it's going to be
shout out to Tom Arata and the Spaceport Company, because they are definitely leading the changeover. I know you wanted to take this one on and keep it timely, but I'm sorry I had to jump in there. Let's
Yeah.
bring on our guest. Sorry.
Okay,
Go ahead.
let's bring on our guest, and I get to wave my red flag a little bit about what she's trying to do. Our guest tonight is our guest tonight is Kristin Savage from the Luna One project. Now, this project intends to build the first true industrial park on the moon, and it's all private sector, all privately funded, and for $4 to $5 billion, she says it could be done in a year. I started drooling just thinking about it. And so let's bring her on. Kristin Savage, please welcome.
I was waiting for Sean to do it. I forgot that was my job.
Yeah, they planned.
Well, you're nothing but a creature of habit.
Yeah,
I guess. Like, Crystal, welcome. I saw this thing. I never heard of it before, and I got just so excited at the whole prospect of the whole thing. I mean, really, no NASA, no government money, no people looking their heads over the transom saying you're not doing that right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, my background in development and construction, and then coming from obviously not the space environment, we don't do shit unless you make the numbers work, you make the timeline work. So this particular project came about because I was looking at it from a very different perspective. I took a course, a space architecture class, because I wanted to dedicate the time to really addressing this problem that I saw, which was, why haven't we gone back to the lunar surface? Why haven't we built there yet? And nobody could give me a straight answer. So against the recommendation of my instructor, I said, no, I'm going to do a complete mission plan. I want to do the architectural selections. It's going to include a site plan. It's going to include, the mission cadence, how many launches, what is the core technology stack, all of it, the ConOps. And by the end of the class, the feedback was essentially, well, thank you, Miss. You're not from, aerospace, but, we need more thought process like this. And it was more exciting because I was like, well, everybody's telling me I'm crazy and it's not going to work. But I looked at it and the numbers work. It's financially feasible. It is technically feasible. We have a number of issues that are preventing us from doing it, including policy. So that was towards the end of last year. And then earlier this year with the Artemis updates, all of a sudden this concept became a little less crazy.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I had actually spun that project into an abstract and a paper with some deeper dives, like heavily supported materials. back from the last 50 years of research that we've done on creating lunar bases. And it has been accepted and then picked up by a couple of commercial groups because I had shared the material with some mentors. And hey, it's relevant. It's a thing. So I've just been having some fun with it. I'm actually on site this week to do the conference presentation, do some networking, get some potential team members maybe, because I am not a rocket scientist, but I am, you know, based on my background, I am fully focused on the execution side. So, you know, this is not something that I would be able to do on my own, and I realize that. But because the numbers make sense, and because now we have so much additional interest behind these types of efforts, it's what can we structure and make it work? And my opinion is we have the structures. We just have to do it.
Okay. Kristin, just before Michael, before you start, no, I just got two quick things. If someone in the chat could please go to luna1.space and post that link in the chat for everybody, because then you're going to see a site full of like 10 or 11 slides, and it'll show exactly what they plan on doing. And that was the second thing I was going to mention. Dallas Beanhoff's comment. He'd like to see your report and talk with you about what Offworld is planning, and we can, you know, offline in email, we can make that introduction if you wish.
Yeah, actually, I would say anecdotally, Dallas, Jim is actually one of my mentors. So
even better.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. I knew you guys would hit it off, Dallas and Kristin. Talk a little bit about not your origin story, because you kind of did that about the class, but a little bit about your construction background, your operations background. You know, dig a hole and make a building happen out of that hole. Like a little bit about that, just so people understand where you're coming from.
So 20 years in development and construction affords me some pretty interesting, unique experiences. I mean, I've been a hands-on construction developer for residential, but bulk of my experience is actually commercial. And I've led rather large projects, including all of the technology deployment at Hudson Yards, which is a $26 billion private development. Built over.
Right. You're not building backyard sheds. You're building industrial infrastructure that is licensed mega projects. Right. That gives you a little bit of cred in this field where we're talking about mega projects, but we haven't actually dug the dirt, filled it with concrete, and built something from it. So that was the very first thing I looked up about you when I first saw your paper. Like, is she crazy? Oh, she's not. Okay.
A little bit, but in the right direction.
right.
Be a little bit.
Right.
Too, so I get it.
So how do you want to build? How big is your habitat? How big is your station?
Well, here's the thing. So the approach was to make some critical decisions up front. Right. We're not talking about a full-scale 1,000-person facility. We need to start somewhere. And part of the constraint was, look, if we had to do it sooner than 2030, could we do it? And how quickly could we if money wasn't the problem? We just wanted to do it in a certain timeline. So it's a minimally viable frontier, like expensive camping type of outpost, which we got to start somewhere. And the idea is just to put a habitat that you can essentially lease out, validate systems, validate the lab, any kind of scenario you want to test out, because I guarantee the founders of this type of facility are going to be very interested in getting that functional for their experimentation sooner than later. But that habitat needs to be supported by some minimal level of redundant power. So when I put this paper together, I said, hey, solar's not viable. We have to do FSP. I'm sorry. So that was one of the reasons why it kind of got dismissed up front. But look where we are now. Guess what, guys? So that habitat lab, whatever you want to call it, it has to be supported by redundant power. So I had spec'd out 4 smaller units, which this is what's available, guys. This is the TRL 5 to 9 level. There's ongoing research to validate it, but a lot of it is outstanding because it needs to be done in situ. So let's put it in, get it going, validate, and just understand that you need the next version ready to go when you learn. So that aside, you also need that power system to create the oxygen and other components of supporting habitation through ISRU. So there were 2, not just 1, but 2 ways of processing the regolith, MRE, and MSE from providers that could reach the TRL 5 level based on their existing testing status with NASA. So those have been spec'd in, and the power is supposed to support those running continuously, which over time would support a full-fledged habitation facility. Once the facility is stabilized, you grow. You don't show up and everything's perfect the first day.
Right.
Never mind 12 to 18 months later, which is normal in a construction environment. You have to stabilize. So applying those concepts from outside the industry, now that ability to rationalize and manage risk and take on some of the cultural issues within space, I would say, it becomes more of a measured program, more of a, we're going to follow a commercial tempo and an iterative process, and we're going to develop the technology and suit it to the actual environment that we need to develop it for. Not going to show up perfect again. So all of these things just layer into a concept of developing, from my perspective, an industrial park. It's a proving ground. It has to be full service. You have to put the requisite components in place and run it like a business. So that can be done in a year. That minimally viable situation can be done in a year. Now, the caveat is all that stuff has to be approved and blessed by the powers that be. But guess what? The more I talk to space lawyers, the more they're like, well, listen, if you have the money and you have the interest and you have the insurance, basically, policy will have to follow. They have to find a way.
Because it always has. Sooner or later.
Yeah. We're in
so again, more feasible.
Exactly.
I still want you to say how many people you're talking about, because I've never really had a good handle. I know it's a ramp up, and I know you've got to start somewhere.
Crew rotation.
Okay.
And yes, humans have to be in the loop. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We can't just send the robots. That is not the plan. It was never the plan. It was a way of kicking the can down the road.
Scaling to how many? Over what time frame?
That's a phase 2. So once you can stabilize operations with 4 people during daylight operations, you get your SOPs and your protocols in place, then you can transition into lunar night operations with those 4 people. There's a process here, guys. It's not show up and have 1,000 people.
Right.
We're barely functioning for 3 days with 2 people. Let's grow.
Okay, so clarifying, you're only there for the 14 days of daytime with 4 people, and then you go home, and then after you've done that a few times, then Right, the robotics are lunar, and then you build to same probably different 4 people, but 4 people that last for nighttime schedules as well, right? So
yeah. Which
what's the time frame for that?
In construction, we do overnight rotations. We have multi-crew overlapping. You have to have the resources in place to do this. So one of the components of this model is that it's not government-led. You have to be able to draw from more than just NASA and the U.S. government. Now, granted, it will be a U.S.-supported endeavor. They have to be responsible for this because of the Outer Space Treaty and a bunch of other international agreements. But being able to collaborate, because it's a private endeavor, and pull from the Saudis, to pull from other smaller groups who are willing to pay for access and provide astronauts in a rotation. Now you have a bigger group of candidates to work with.
Beautiful.
So, okay, now I want to dial it back to the very beginning. You got your first ship on the moon. What do you build first?
Oh, so that's layered into the mission plan too. You got to get the power going first.
Okay.
If you don't have power, you got nothing.
Right. Okay. When does the landing pad get built?
It's a frontier.
Okay.
There was a bunch of things that I got taken out of the plan, including the gateway. Just too expensive, too much for logistics, go direct to surface. Also, land that thing on the surface without a pad. You can use landscape and take advantage of elevation and natural cover for a time period.
Yeah.
Then you build the berms.
I asked because lately, tall, skinny ships are having trouble landing on the moon as opposed to short, squat, fat ones.
Yeah,
and
the
so
landers.
You want to use Starship, and that's what Starship is being built for. But right now, I have concerns over its landing leg structure, and can it handle an uneven surface? Successfully.
There are outliers with Starship, and I put that into the assumption profile as well. One of the biggest ones being the refueling factor, but the landing itself has to be proven out. So the question is, do you just pay for the research and development and assume it's going to blow up? You have to build it into your risk calculation and your contingency, which I have technically.
Good.
I have over 20% contingency just for flights.
Okay, cool.
And it's still cheaper, mind you, than some of the, I would say, more ridiculous things that we have built on Earth. And you're literally unlocking an entire new economy by doing it. So to me, it's worth the money.
You've got a price tag of $4 to $5 billion. What is worth the money for that, right? This is a show about the intersection of money and space. What do you anticipate the ROI of that $5 billion is?
So one of the things that I had to look at was getting to ROI sooner. It wasn't a specific margin. It was just less than the 10-year expected timeline that most investors are just not interested in. So I said originally 5 years. Now, because of the initial budget, the capital commitments up front, not the ongoing costs or the growth costs, you're looking at recouping that initial money within 2 to 5 years, depending on how quickly you can stabilize ISRU. Right, because that's your money maker. You will make a lot of money in an industrial park scenario by leasing out space to tenants renting out to research, other nation states, other groups that want to do, private groups that want to develop their products in a low gravity environment, a vacuum environment. But essentially you're looking at a 2 to 5 year payback versus 10 years. The margins could be a variety of different levels because, quite honestly, if you're running it like a business, each one of those services has to be their own business unit. They have to stand on their own. They each have their own return on investment and they have their own investor groups. So this is how we structure developments for mega infrastructure projects today. I'm not doing anything different. We do have to solve for some problems around the things we take for granted, like oxygen and water, radiation, which translates into contingency planning and insurance and making sure you take care of the people that come back and, you know, may or may not develop issues later, like your veterans. So there's a number of different things. But that all filters into your business model, your risk management, and your contingency planning.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've never built an industrial park before. I've seen it built on this planet, and so I'm trying to go through also the economics of it because you're going to have ultimately a variety, hopefully, of customers that are going to set up shop there. And they're going to have certain needs and requirements over and above the mere survival part and getting power and getting oxygen and water and things of that nature. And so, how do you? So what's your not your plan, your proposal, but what's your strategy for helping new customers get accustomed to their space and being able to customize their environment for their particular industrial needs?
Yeah. Version 1.0 is you use what you have, right? Because they're going to be learning just as much in that environment before they spec out the way they want it to look. Now, when you get into a phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 type of development situation, then you can start doing tenant custom finish out is what we would call it, tenant improvements.
Improvements.
And there's allowances for that, right? So up front, when you are leasing a space, you agree to so much in a TI, which is the tenant improvement charges, and the developer and the construction group take care of those tenant improvements. The handoff to the operations team is the group that actually makes sure that those tenant improvements don't become dysfunctional over time, right? They do the maintenance and repairs. So this model is multifaceted. It's a matter of setting up the facility, leasing the facility or selling it, and keeping it operational for those tenants to not have to think about it. Because if you all try to do it by yourself, it's not going to work.
Nope. This is a team effort for sure. Yeah. Well, let's talk about team, right? So you took the class, you were, even Jeffrey is like, well, maybe this isn't, maybe you're biting off more than you can chew here.
Right.
But it's been 9 months, right? And you certainly have had our attention at Liftport. Who else is paying attention to this? You've got your presentation in just a few weeks, right?
Yeah. There are robotics groups that have picked it up. It's interesting to see that the ones most interested in this kind of situation are the ones that just need to get in the regolith, right? They don't necessarily need the clean room environment yet. They need power. They need some kind of shelter. There are also, I would say, the habitation group. There's one in particular. Their level of interest is that they need a means to validate their design, which again, this translates back into a proving ground because everybody is still outstanding on the final TRL piece, which is it works in situ. They might have validation that it works in low Earth orbit, but nobody's gone back, right? So if they go and drop a habitat and they don't have to worry about power, well, isn't that a nice feature, right? So, also, one of the things that I've been trying to do this week is work through the ISRU piece. So the goal is to get a group that either becomes a founding partner for ISRU to plug that hole, or just say, okay, from a procurement perspective, what's available and what would you need to get this on the surface in a timely manner? Because, yeah, they're interested, but funding right now entirely comes from the U.S. government. So I have to solve some of those problems from the private side, in addition to setting up the entity structures and the groundwork on the legal side.
Is it just you still, or are you starting to put together a team?
I am still looking for a co-founder, but yes, I have a couple of people who are from construction, but nobody from aerospace yet.
Okay. All right. I mean, I think I think it's pretty interesting. You know, I'll tell folks, we saw your documents maybe January or February, and there were a lot of light bulbs. There were a lot of conversations internally before we called you, and yeah, no, there was a lot of conversations before we called you, and the more I look at this, the more intrigued I become. So yeah. And, oh, by the way, here's Dallas again. He does know a lot about that topic. So,
I will reach out.
worth reaching out. Reaching out on that. We only have 3 minutes, Tom.
Yep, we do. And I think what should happen now as we close out, we would like you to open up your crystal ball and let us know what you see the future looking like in the next 5 years of this industry and in the next 25 years.
Okay, well, I would say I'm going to circle back to the Elon comment. Like, yes, I have an opinion about Elon's plan. I don't think we underestimate him. If his goal is to get to Mars, he needs 1,000 people on the moon. And if you think about it, 1,000 people for a small facility is actually a bare minimum.
Yep.
We had 100%. Well over 1,500 at Hudson Yards, and then we had about another 5,000 in support from on-site vendors. Wow. So what he's looking to build is like a bare minimum. Mm-hmm. I would not underestimate him. I think that's coming in less than the 10 years time frame, 25 years. He's well on his way sending people to Mars. I don't think he's going to have the million, but
no,
you never know.
Well, you put that stake in the ground, you know, and he only gets to 100,000. Oh well.
Yeah, it's
still, right.
He's the type that does the less than 10% chance, right? Yeah. And he has executed on everything. Maybe not in the exact timeline, but he has done. I'm an expert in execution, right? I still screw up some stuff. That man is OCD, and he has performed over and over and over again. I would not bet against him.
Yeah. A lot of people have gone broke betting against him. Mm-hmm. And I can expect that trend to continue in the future. Kristin Savage, it's been so wonderful to have you on here and talk about the Moon One initiative. Thanks, and I am so excited about it. And we're going to be watching you, and we're going to have you back sometime and talk about your progress. And hopefully you put the team together, start getting a little money in, and you can develop that further. And the more players, the better out there. So glad to have you. Kristin Chavage, thank you for coming. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
I love that. We didn't get into the show, but I've been referring to that thing as the savage architecture since day one, and
okay.
I think you should own that branding and just
go for it. Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. So Thursday, we're talking about Thursday already. There might be a Starship launch. Speaking of that, on Thursday, we'll have that to talk about. But our guest is Yuk Chi Chan.
Oh, finally!
CEO of Charter Space, which is a space experience company, and they do a lot of other things too. And that's going to be a fascinating conversation, and it's timely considering what we just talked about this evening.
Right,
and so, that's going to be great. As always, 8 p.m. Eastern. For Sean Key, who's still out there in the galaxy somewhere, and Michael Lane, I remain Thomas Andrew Olson. Keep watching the skies.